Hi there, it's Keith. Hoping you're well. Thank you for joining me on Communication Skills Part 1. Um, Over the next 35 to 45 minutes, we'll be covering some interesting topics related to body language while you're with me today. What I've done is I've broken the session into 4 particular areas today. And what I would suggest basically, this course is a lot more effective if you kind of follow it in order, step by step, just so you can get the most from things. If, however, you are reviewing this and there's a particular section you want to go back to, there is a guide that links to this session today, which tells you when each topic area starts, whether it's 7 minutes, 14 minutes, whatever it is. So if you want to go back and review a particular topic at any time, you can go back and focus on that as you can as well. What I've also done is at the end of each section, there is a review to carry out. Now, again, the choice is yours, whether you pause the session to carry out the section review, or you come back and do all 4 when you've been through the 35 to 45 minutes of this particular session. So again, the choice is yours, whatever works best for you, but at least this way you know what's going to be coming up, and there's a support guide to let you know where all the timings are, what exercise you've got to do, so that you can get the most from the session. So let's kick off. Let's get started. Let's just get some screen sharing done. Okay, so here we go. And let's begin it from that current slide. There we are. So yeah, so I said communication skills part 1 today, which is where we're going to focus on body language. Okay, so one of the things you'll find, and you'll probably notice from previous experience, personally, professionally, but being able to communicate effectively is one of the most important life skills you can possibly learn. Okay? Communication is defined as transferring information to produce greater understanding. And what I've done and what we're going to look at today is communication is broken down into 2 areas: visual and spoken. So what we're going to focus on today is around body language, what you see. In communication skills part 2, the second part of this, we're going to be focusing on around listening and asking the right questions, or the spoken side of communication. But what you'll find, and again, I put it on the slide here, put simply, body language is the unspoken element of communication that we use to reveal our true feelings and emotions. Gestures, facial expressions, postures will all convey a message about how we are feeling at a particular time. As I've stated on here, 2/3 of how we communicate is actually unspoken. That's why this topic is going to be super important for the work that you do, getting the best from yourself, and also getting the best from the customers that you talk to. Because as you'll see during this session, communication and very much body language as well is very much a 2-way street. What you show is very much what you're going to get back. Okay, so what we're going to look at here is when you're able to understand these signs, we can use it to your advantage, but also to the advantage of the people that you're talking to as well. Being able to understand and interpret body language is going to help you pick up unspoken issues, uncertainties, problems, negative feelings that other people might have, but you can also use it, and here's the important thing, in a positive way to add strength to your verbal messages, okay? So we'll look at both sides. There's going to be positive body language, negative body language, but again, we're going to have a good focus on how you can get your messages across simply by changing the way you look, a gesture you make, and so on. But that's what we're going to cover over the next time that you're here with me today. But first of all, the important thing is to understand body language. You first also have to understand the importance of rapport. Now, rapport is the process of developing a connection with someone else. It's considered a state of harmonious understanding with another individual or potentially a group, depending on how you're working. You often hear people say that, you know, we really click, we're certainly on the same wavelength. Very often with friends and family, when you're out, it happens very naturally. But sometimes when you are with somebody new, it takes a little bit of time to work on, but you can develop that, okay? Now, when you're interacting with other people, your body will often subconsciously adopt their poses, their body language, if you like, and it shows a closeness with that other person. Generally speaking, rapport is subconscious, but as I said, it's also referred to as being on the same wavelength. But here's the thing, it's important to note rapport is very much a 2-way street. What you give out is what you're going to receive in return. So if you're nice to someone, guess what? You're going to get nice back. If you're grumpy with someone, very possible you're going to get the same in return. But that's what we're going to be looking at today. So Rapport is considered to be something that you know naturally, unless many people think you can't actually learn it. It just happens. Not entirely true, which is the purpose of today. Any skill that you've got, rapport can be learnt and enhanced, especially if you're looking for it. So rapport can be used in various ways to help others believe in what you believe, to negotiate better, to be a better leader, and in this instance, for sure, a better coach. You can also use it to resolve conflicts, uncertainty, and definitely to enhance every kind of interaction that you'll have with another person or group of people. So what we're going to do is, over the topics that we're covering today, we're going to go through 4 particular areas. Section 1 is going to be some body language basics. Now, there's going to be some stuff in here which I'm sure you know, but we'll just dig a little bit deeper into. Okay. Section 2 is going to be an area on mirroring and matching. Again, a term you may have come across before, but we'll look into how it works and 1 or 2 other little areas which you will probably find interesting and extremely useful as well. The 3rd section will be on positive and negative body language. And the final section, which kind of brings it all together, is approaching somebody, particularly for the first time. So they're the areas that we're going to cover today. We'll get straight into it and we'll go into body language basics. So particularly, and this is, I guess, comes from my experience in working in service delivery, eye contact is so important. It conveys confidence from yourself and empathy with others, but importantly, as we're looking forward, it helps you to build trust. Now, too much eye contact, and you can be seen as a little bit aggressive perhaps. Too little eye contact, complete reverse, maybe you have no interest in speaking to that person. So it's about kind of creating a happy medium. And as I've noted on here, what you basically want to be looking for is maybe 5 to 7 seconds of eye contact. You'll see this referred to a few times in here, where maybe you make that eye contact, break it for a moment, but it's important that when you do break eye contact, you don't look down, because what some people may interpret that to be is that's the ending of your part of the conversation. It's a time for them to get involved and so on. Instead, if you are still talking to somebody, look up to the side if you can. And when your listener sees this, they're more likely to think that maybe you're trying to remember something, and they'll continue listening to you rather than feel that's a pause in the conversation and their opportunity to jump in. But important as well that you recognize that as well in others. So if somebody does look down, give it a moment, and then maybe that's your cue to jump in with your next part of the conversation or your solution, or just understanding that's them, they've had their moment and now they want to kind of pass that on to you to start talking. The eyes, super important. When you're listening to someone, often eye contact is broken when you stop speaking. So when you maintain eye contact, the person will know that you're continuing, you're still interested in what they have to say. Again, remember that 5 to 7 second rule. Coupled with listening skills such as nodding, the occasional agreement, words such as yes, I see, will ensure a positive way to keep the talker talking and to show them you're interested in what they are saying. Okay, please think about that. Your smile, again, really important. I'm sure you've heard this a million times. A smile is infectious. If you smile at somebody, it's almost impossible for them not to smile back. So when you do give a warm and friendly smile, you're going to get one in return. Okay, why? Because you get a moment of feeling connected, you feel accepted, you spread a little bit of happiness. That's not a bad thing, that's for sure. And you make people feel comfortable. Okay. Also, you'll find a smile shows interest, warmth, especially when it's given freely and it's not strained or faked. If you can give a happy, genuine smile, as I said, you're going to get one in return. Something that people forget as well sometimes is smiling can actually help you reduce stress. Your heart rate will slow, and other stress indicators will kind of melt away, which is great, especially when it comes into non-verbal communication, because it allows you to take away the stress of that first contact and to feel more comfortable with that person in what sometimes can feel like a difficult situation to be in. So please don't underestimate the power of a smile. It's not just to establish contact, but it can pay off in so many other ways as well. Your hands. Now, interesting. Lots of things that people do with their hands, hide them, put them in front of themselves, do all sorts of things. But please think about what you're doing with your hands when you start to get involved with talking to people. If you can, this is a habit I used to have, get them out of your pockets, get them off of your hips, okay? To begin with, if you can, let them hang comfortably at your sides. As you get into the flow of talking, your hands will start to join in, you'll start gesturing, and they'll become part of your conversation. Gesturing as well, when you start to do it, will convey enthusiasm and energy for what you're talking about. And when you're keen to share what you do, and I'm sure as a personal trainer, you will be keen to share what you do and how you can help, your passion and your enthusiasm will come across, which often is shown in hand gesturing, okay? The other thing that you'll find as well with your hands is it allows you to look confident. Nervous communicators are often frozen, stiff, shoulders up, hands kind of clenched. Movement basically will give you energy and it will help you to feel positive, which again will come across not just to yourself, but the person who's there and think, wow, this is somebody I want to be involved in, someone I want to talk to. You'll realize as well that you're speaking in a confident, conversational manner, and you'll start to feel that way too, okay? All those things will have an impact on yourself and the person that you're with. The thing to remember with this, gesturing will not only allow you to unfreeze your body and kind of get into the flow of your conversation, but it'll unfreeze your mind. It'll help you to think, allow your thoughts to flow, and it'll be able to kind of continue with a nice, happy, positive conversation, which is what you're aiming for, okay? Posture. Now, this is something that kind of people underestimate or forget about from time to time. Now, this has huge significance when you're interpreting body language. So a few things to think about, a few things to look for. Adopting a posture is going to be a very general approach for adjusting, relating with, and defending yourself or others from various situations. Now, standing straight with your hands to your side, as shown in that first image there, that can be friendly, welcoming, and relaxed. Something to look for as well, feet pointing towards an exit. That person is ready to walk away, which is why sometimes we'll talk about, if you can, if there's an opportunity to have a seat or make somebody feel comfortable, that can be a way of taking that uncertainty away, if you like. Other things to think about the posture. I mentioned it a moment ago. Hands in your pockets or tightly clasped, as you'll see on that first image there. You look nervous or you're stressed, or that's maybe how your customer's feeling. So look out for those signs, watch it in yourself. If you're sitting or you're standing with your legs crossed at the knee, when you're sitting, as it says there, will show that you're comfortable and relaxed, okay? Quite a nice stance to adopt. But as we go through this session today, we'll have a look at some other poses and postures for you to consider, but just trying to give you a bit of an overview, a few things to look for, just to kind of get you thinking about what we're going to cover over the rest of this session, okay? So, quick review for us here, end of section 1. What I'd like you to think about, as I said, you can pause this for a moment or you can continue through and come back to it. But what I'd like to think about is which area of body language that we've touched upon so far will be an area that you feel you most need to focus on. Is it anything to do with eye contact, hand gesturing, postures? Just take a moment, pause the session, write down a few notes, and what we'll do is we'll come back and that'll be something that we can hopefully throw in to section 2 and 3 as we continue. So I'll give you a moment to pause it, and I'll see you in just a second. Okay, so welcome back. We are going to continue now on section 2, matching and mirroring. Now, as I said, this might be something that you've come across already in the past. This might be something new to you. But what we'll do is we'll just clean up a few areas for you here in terms of what it is, but also how it's useful. Okay, so let's continue. So first of all, we're going to look at matching and mirroring. Okay. Now, this is something we do very naturally. In fact, we do it all so well with people we know, like with friends, family members, etc. We don't even know it's happening. It's a great state of rapport, comfort with that individual, if you like. We talked about, being on the same wavelength and so on. This is very much expressed when you get into matching and mirroring, okay? But understanding this and being able to use this knowledge to benefit yourself and your client or customer is going to be extremely welcome. And that's what we're going to focus on for a bit. So first of all, matching. So there's a bit of a difference between the two. Thing to think about is, first of all, with matching, you observe someone for a moment and then you try to behave like them. You may copy the way they sit or a gesture or two that they particularly use. So if there's a hand gesture they use, for example, or way they flick their head or something along those lines, that is maybe something you observe and try to match. Mirroring, on the other hand, is you're precisely matching someone's behavior to that of another, okay? Now, what you've got to be careful of here, and it's important, you maintain the difference between mimicking and mirroring. So one of the things it's important to do is, rather than jump straight in and start trying to, copy them exactly and making them feel frustrated or upset, what you're looking to do is give a bit of a pause and then start to kind of mirror them through the conversation as you go through. So what you're trying to do is adapt to their gestures rather than copy them as soon as you see them. If you can do that, again, similar to matching, you'll find you start to establish a state of rapport. People feel comfortable with you. They feel like-minded. This is someone who is like me, and that can be extremely useful when you're getting to know somebody. Something else to think about. Crossover matching. Now, crossover matching is when you try to match one aspect of your behavior to an aspect of someone else's. Okay, so maybe it's a smile, a word they use, for example. Okay, you may also consider psychogeography. Now, this is something not everyone's come across, but again, important to consider. What it looks at is the spatial relationship between two or more people during verbal and non-verbal communication. So here's an example for you. If you sit next to a person, often you're aligned to their perspective because you're both seeing the same thing, you've got the same view. Often when you sit across from somebody, although you're going to have eye contact, your outlook can be different because maybe you're looking in different directions, you see things slightly differently. So maybe that thought of, you know, we both want the same thing, but we're trying to go in a different way. It's not a bad thing. But often if you're actually aligned and sitting in the same position as somebody, seeing the same thing, it tends to add to the comfort for both of you, especially when you're starting to establish rapport. Now, there's other things you can look at. Matching through language, okay? This is where you have to pay close attention to the way people speak, their tone of voice, or maybe particular words that they use. Now, if you can match either of those things or both, then again, people feel that you're like-minded, you get on, you start to click, and it makes it a lot easier to continue your conversation, start to build a level of trust, okay? Another one to think about as well is matching shared beliefs, okay? So sharing common beliefs or values with another person can be very necessary, okay? But what you'll find is no matter how great you are at matching your body language or verbal communication, rapport can be tough. Now, here's something that's really important to remember. Even if you don't believe in the same things as somebody else, it's important that you respect their beliefs and views, okay? Sometimes we may have different beliefs and views, but it's important that you respect them. There may be a lot of instances where there's not necessarily a right or wrong, but you need to kind of understand, see where that person's coming from to be able to get on, to be able to understand them, and again, to be able to build a relationship and rapport, okay? So again, we're matching and mirroring, just a few things I want you to think about. Gestures, voice, facial expression, nods will give you more feedback on how someone is feeling, okay? In turn, what also allow you to do is find a way to take time to build rapport and adjust the flow of the conversation to ensure you and the customer are both on the same wavelength, okay? The key to rapport is understanding and interpreting non-verbal communication and matching and mirroring to build trust. If you can do that, then what you'll find is people feel comfortable with you, they're more aligned with maybe some of the suggestions you're going to make because they think, do you know what, this person gets me, they understand me, and they're understanding me. So anything you're willing to share with them at that point is going to feel like, you know what, great, we click, I like this, let's keep moving forwards. Now here's the thing, we talk about mirroring and matching, and you want to kind of work together. So maybe initially what you're doing is you're watching how that person works, gestures they make, nods they give, and so on. So you're matching them so they start to feel comfortable with you. But after a while, what it's important to do is kind of test and see if maybe now you're both in rapport. So how do you do that? Well, that's what's called pacing and leading. So when you have been matching for a while, try and see if you can influence their responses to you subconsciously to see if they're engaged with you, okay? So what you can do is, if they've been talking maybe at a nice, even, gentle, quite a gentle pace, can you speak with a bit more enthusiasm? Maybe speak a little bit faster, add to the pace of that conversation. Maybe you can change your posture, add some hand gestures, maybe not quite like that, smile a bit more. Now, if you find that the person you're talking to is feeling comfortable, they will follow. Maybe they'll start to talk a little bit quicker. Maybe they'll mirror some of your gestures. It will start to show that you're on the same wavelength, okay? This will show they're feeling more comfortable working with a like-minded individual and be a lot more likely to follow your advice. So as I mentioned there, when you've been following their lead for a little while, watching how they work and how they nod, gesture, hands, words they use, for example, you can start seeing if maybe after a couple of minutes, you can throw in some of your own gestures, some of your own nods, change the pace of how you're talking. And if that individual then starts to do that with you, guess what? You're in rapport, you're building relationships. If not, check back, match them for a little bit longer, and then just throw it into the conversation a little bit later, or try a different nod a little bit later on when you are engaged with them. See how you get on. But pacing and leading will just give you an idea of how much in rapport or not at that time you actually are. Okay. Other things to think about. If someone is comfortable with you, they will trust your judgment. Okay. You will notice slight changes in your body language now become a lot more noticeable to them, and they're more inclined to follow your behavior patterns. Okay. Now, the same can be said for how you match your voice to the other person. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, where you're matching their tone, speed, and volume. Perhaps you can now change the speed and volume to help them to see your point of view more clearly. Okay. Now, what you'll find is having established a rapport with someone, you'll be able to have a positive influence for them. Okay. Now, this is something really important to remember. This kind of stuff is extremely powerful. So make sure, and I'm sure you would, use it with the utmost integrity and ensure whatever you're offering when this is happening is going to be of benefit to them. Okay. So I said, this stuff is great. It's absolutely fantastic. It works, but it's important that you're both getting something from it. Number one, you both trust each other. But number two, the end result is you both get something which benefits you both. Okay. So what I'd like to do, a little bit of a review here at the end of section 2. What I'd like you to think about is that you can pause it and complete this review, or you can come back to it at the end. But think about this. What is your understanding of matching and mirroring? Just so you can be clear. What I'd also like you to think about is, why is matching and mirroring important so you can use it effectively? Then think about this. How can psychogeography be useful to you? And then finally, after matching and mirroring behavior, how would you see if you built rapport and trust? Okay. So pause this for a second, get some answers down, get some thinking started, and I will see you in just a few moments when we pick up and continue on section 3. But pause, let's try this section out, this section review out, and I'll see you in a few moments. Okay, so welcome back. Hoping you got on well with the review on section 2, because you'll find now that as we get into section 3, this will start to become more effective in terms of how you've been thinking and how you're going to apply some of this now. So we're going to look at now positive and negative body language cues. Now, I'm sure you've probably come across some of these in your everyday life. Maybe you've experienced it before, but we're just going to have a look at the impact it actually has. As I mentioned before, it's a two-way street in terms of what you show will probably be a good mirror of what you get back, and vice versa. So we're just going to have a look at the impact of this for a few minutes. So negative body language. Being aware of negative body language in yourself and others can allow you to pick up on unspoken issues, bad feelings, and so on. And we all know the arms folded in front of you and so on, that can be quite a sign of negative body language. So a few examples I'll put up for you here. If you've got people that are disengaged, disinterested, unhappy, you will find there is things for maybe minimal or tense facial expressions. So look out for those, not just in others, but in yourself as well. If somebody turns their body away for a second, there is a complete possibility that maybe they're feeling disinterested, they're not happy with a situation in some way. So it gives you an opportunity to start thinking about how you can fix these things. If they're looking down, or you do the same, and you maintain a little eye contact, then again, it's negative. There's no focus. So what's happened? Has there something gone wrong? Is there something you can do differently? How can you adjust it? And as I mentioned right at the very start, arms folded in front of the body can also be a big sign of someone who is not interested, protective, if you like, and maybe a bit defensive. It could also be they're pretty cold. So maybe check the air temperature in the room as you're going through as well. Now, if you see any of these signs, the important thing to do, first of all, is not to take it personally. These could be defense mechanisms. You could have someone who's nervous or shy. Someone might have had a bad day in the run-up to seeing you. So don't take it personally, but recognize it, because maybe if you can accept it and see what's going on, you can actually help and make sure that it doesn't impact on what you're trying to do to help this particular individual. Okay. So one of the things to look at, if you've noted some negative body language here, to begin with, can you match and mirror these behaviors? But the thing to ask yourself is, well, why would I want to do that? Well, first of all, it will show empathy and it'll allow you to start building rapport with someone before you try and influence them with some positive gestures when you feel rapport has definitely been built. Now, being aware of these signs can help you to adjust what you say and how you say it to a particular individual. Because if you go in all bright and bubbly and positive and they're having a bad day or they're nervous or they're shy, that can overpower them, make them feel uncomfortable. So take a few moments just to kind of empathize with them, sit in their shoes for a moment if you like. And generally what you'll find is you'll both feel a lot more at ease with each other and they're more likely to be receptive to you. So even if you step out of your comfort zone, if you like being positive, you like being full of energy, great. But just tone it back a step to begin with if you notice some of these negative body language cues. Okay, makes sense? But what it's really good to do, and this is the bit I guess that you get to express yourself, because being a personal trainer, there's so many benefits you offer, there's so many things you can help with, and a lot of the time it's going to be about being positive and helpful and so on. So let's look at a few of these positive body language things. So first of all, being positive, it can add a lot of strength to the verbal message or even the ideas that you want to convey, and it helps you to avoid sending mixed or confusing signals. Postures can definitely help to adapt to project self-confidence and openness, okay? And a lot of the time, if people want to work with you, having that confidence in yourself means, do you know what? If they believe in themselves, then so do I. I want to be a part of this. So really useful. Open body position, arms unfolded, great indicator of positive body language. Upright posture, not slouching, that can be super useful. Relaxed, open facial expressions, a smile in there, absolutely, that can be really good just to kind of start to build some confidence and let people see that you're positive and ready to help. We mentioned it earlier, but arms at the side, relaxed, really good. And again, eye contact. So if you can think about open body posture, a relaxed face, good eye contact, arms hanging relaxed to the side before you start your hand gesturing when you get into conversation, those things not only will make you feel positive, you will show that you're positive and people are more likely to feel kind of comfortable and engaged with you once they start to get a feel for who you are. So please think about those traits, okay? So a few things to look for here. Positive body language. As I said, think hands. Talking with your hands is an easy way to incorporate gestures into your conversation. We mentioned it earlier. Please remember the importance. Eye contact. Keep your head up. Look the person in the eye. It develops trust. Don't forget that 5 to 7 seconds rule. Okay. Arms, as we mentioned, be aware of them. Hang your arms comfortably at your side or bring your hands together in your lap to show others that you are open to what they are communicating and vice versa. Affirmative movements. You can show empathy with simple actions of agreement like nodding your head, smiling. All those things, again, will show positive sides to you. Negative sides to look for and to be aware of, so just to sum them up. Looking at the ground, shy or disinterested. So maybe it gives you an opportunity to try and just empathize with that person a bit more, mirror match them for a moment before you start to get into the positive side of things. Picking at something. Whether you're fiddling with the zip, you're doing sort of a cuff or some jewelry, demonstrates boredom or disapproval, okay? Sitting on the edge of the chair will make others feel uncomfortable. It's important, if you can, if you're seated, to sit back. When you lean into a conversation, then you look more engaged, okay? I mentioned it before, but again, please think about it. Folding your arms. Now, some people can feel comfortable with that. Sometimes it's defensive. They could be cold. But generally speaking, it indicates that you're a little closed or resistant or perhaps even a little nervous, okay? So just bear those things in mind. So what I'd like you to do, just as part of our section 3 review, spend a few minutes in just a moment, pause this section, carry out this exercise and then continue on. List the positive and negative body language cues we've just discussed. What I also want you to do is put a note next to each one and explain why they are important to consider. So when you're writing down your positive body language cues, like a smile, put a note next to it in terms of why that's so important and how it's going to be beneficial to you and to your customer. When you also, what I want you to do is think about negative body language. So if you think about one of your negative traits, might be folding your arms. Again, why is that negative? What does it portray? And why is that so important to consider when you're talking to someone? Okay, so take a few minutes, Put down your positive and negative body language cues, some notes next to each one as to why they're so important to think about. And I'll see you in just a moment for section 4. And good luck. See you in a moment. So we're on to section 4, approaching customers. So I just want to spend a little bit of time on this. This is where we now start to bring in some of the things we've been talking about in terms of body language, eye contact, and starting to build rapport. Now, huge and important part of interaction is obviously got to be talking to your customers. You could be the best trainer in the world. You could have the most amazing way of working with people once you're with them, but you have to be able to approach people once to get started. Now, here's the thing. If we can focus on this and get some wins here, guess what? You're going to have the success that you're looking for. So let's get straight into this. So here's the thing. How do you know that customers want to be approached? Sometimes it's going to be a sign. Sometimes you're going to have to take a little bit of a chance. But I want to run through a few bits here and see if we can get some thoughts going right now. So what do you see when you're ready to make contact? Now, we're all hoping there's going to be someone who smiles and acknowledges you, and that gives you an opportunity to walk over. But there's also going to be people that are wearing headphones. There's going to be people that are working out. So do I disturb them? Do they want to be interrupted? There's also going to be people there as well that you've never spoken to before. One of the things that you tend to find, if you've seen someone before and you've spoken to them, it's easy to go up and start a conversation again. But there's going to be a lot of new people out there that maybe you've never spoken to before, but you could have a positive influence on in terms of helping them get to where they want to be. But you're never going to know unless you talk to them. So let's have a look at this. Now, when you're approaching your customers, please think about and consider this. If they are wearing headphones, this could be used as a reason not to interact. Maybe they're trying to shut themselves off. Doesn't mean that they don't want to have some interaction or you're not going to be able to help them. So how can you establish a little bit of contact? Body language, here we go. A wave, a very quick thumbs up perhaps, something where they can see you. Some kind of acknowledgement can lead to some kind of meaningful interaction. Perhaps they'll pull their headphones down for a second, they'll wave back. Maybe then there's a sign for you to walk over. Once they've been acknowledged or you've been acknowledged, that potential now opens up for you to start engaging them in some kind of contact, okay? The other thing that you may find, you've never spoken to someone before or you don't speak to them, this could be someone who's here on their last visit. Perhaps we could save them. Perhaps we can help them to achieve their goals before they give in and stop coming. So make that approach. There's also considerations. What if they're too shy or afraid to ask for help and they just need a friendly face? Not everybody is great at instigating that first contact. We would absolutely love it if people were to come up to you and just say, hi, I need personal training, can you help me? We know that's not necessarily the case. A lot of the time it's going to be something that you do or say that makes them think, do you know what? That's exactly what I'm looking for. So don't forget to remember that. It's important. Maybe if you can make that approach, all of a sudden you open up a world of possibilities to this individual you're talking to today. Here's the other thing to think about. What if they've got no idea what they're doing and you can help them realize and achieve their goals? We know this, and I'm sure you've seen it yourselves. There's so many people that are working out that don't actually know what they're doing, and you could help. Maybe they've seen somebody else working out, maybe they've seen something on TV or something along those lines where they've seen somebody else working out and think, I need to try that. But is it beneficial to them? Do they really know what they're doing? Are they doing it correctly? Can give you a great opportunity to approach them. But again, that little bit of help, that little bit of advice could be the thing that makes them think, what else can they share with me? So always important to make those considerations when you are approaching your customers. Really important if you can, make a confident first impression. So we've talked about it, but have that open posture. Be relaxed, don't slouch. Sit or stand upright, place your hands by your sides. Okay, hopefully by now that's the kind of thing that's going in. You know that's going to be your open posture and the thing that's going to make people feel comfortable with you. Avoid standing with your hands on your hips. Why? Well, it can make you appear larger. Now, what that can show basically, potentially, is an underlying feeling of aggression or a desire to dominate. Now, to begin with, this might not be the thing that you want to portray because you want to open dialogue, you want them to feel comfortable with you. Dominating at an early phase might not be the best move to begin with, okay? Think about and maintain good eye contact, okay? Try to hold the other person's gaze for a few seconds, remember 5 to 7 seconds. This will show that you're sincere and you're engaged. but avoid turning it into a staring match. If your eyes are starting to ache because you're not blinking, you're trying to maintain that stare, you're doing it for too long. Relax, look up for a second like you're thinking, then come back to the conversation, focus on them again. Okay? Avoid touching your face. Now, you might have an itch or something, but there can be a perception that people who touch their face too frequently while they're answering questions are being dishonest. Okay, this is not all the time, but it is something that people tend to feel. So if you can, avoid fiddling with your hair, touching your mouth or nose, particularly if your aim is to come across as trustworthy. Okay, and that's what you're aiming for, and that's what you want, and I'm sure you are. So let's make sure that's portrayed. Okay. Now, the bottom line to this basically is you make the difference by taking the control of a situation. You must want to talk to someone for them to want to talk to you. So thinking about how you are portraying yourself in terms of your body language you're showing and looking at how they respond to you will have a massive influence in terms of how successful your approaches are and how confident you are in making those first contacts with people. And the subsequent ones after that, to be fair. So what I'd like you to do, this is not an end of section review, but I would love it if at the end of this session, or even right now, if you're feeling good about it, pause for a moment. Quick test exercise for you, take about 20 minutes. Go into the building. If you're on site right now, if you are working, if you're at the facility, the leisure facility, the gym that you're working at, go out and interact right now with one, perhaps two customers. Just to put some of this interaction, see if it's kind of all starting to make sense and is going in. But what I want you to do when you come back is make a note of what you learned in terms of the approach, body language you observed, and how you gave yours out. Make a few notes on that. But what I want to write down to go with it as well is how is it going to help you in the future? What did you learn and how is it going to help you in the future? And importantly, what I want you to think about is how many times did the customer smile? So if you smiled, did they smile back? And during that approach, that contact, how many other times did they smile? I'm pretty certain, in fact, I'm very confident that each time you approach somebody and you start to establish rapport, you'll get a lot of smiles. You'll get a lot of positive body language because let's face it, people like communication. So let's go out, give it a try, give yourself 20 minutes and get some notes, see what you've learned, and then we'll be able to continue with the final part of section 4. Okay, go out, good luck. See you in a second. So welcome back, hoping that 20 minutes went well. But what I want you to do now is think about a few different situations. Okay, so think about the things you're going to be able to do when you go out and get back into work now. So think about the approaches that you're going to be making for the first time. Think about maybe trial sessions that you're going to be running and think about getting to know people. Now, body language can help you stay calm in certain situations where your emotions have the potential to run high. So think about this. If you can relax your body, okay, it will make it a lot easier to keep your emotions at bay. There are going to be nerve-wracking situations when, as I said, you're making initial contact, walking up to someone for the first time, can be difficult when you haven't done it very much, or it can be somebody new you're talking to can feel a bit uncomfortable to begin with. So relax, you're more likely to come across confident, okay? Even if you're asking someone to take up a trial with you, or you're asking someone to convert, to start paying you now for your services, that could be a moment where you feel a little uncomfortable. You know, I've delivered a service, we're getting on, now I've got to ask for money, oh my gosh. But think about your body language, be relaxed, you'll come across confident. And if that happens, then your customer will pick that up and they'll have no doubts in their mind that it's the right thing to do to move forwards. If for some reason you come across a little nervous, a little bit tight, if you like, in terms of body language, then it maybe puts a doubt in your mind in terms of, is this the right thing that I'm doing? Because if you're doubting yourself, then does that come across to your customer in doubt as well? So think about that. Okay? So think about maintaining your calm, okay? Keep your hands still, avoid fidgeting, don't play with your hair. Think about all those positive body language cues we talked about earlier. So a few other things to think about with particular situations. Look interested. I'm sure you would anyway. But as you mentioned before, touching your face, touching your mouth can signal dishonesty. Don't do it. It's not needed and it doesn't necessarily give the best impression of yourself. Okay. It can, though, demonstrate that you're thinking. So if you are asked a question, it's okay to maybe briefly touch your cheek or touch your chin just for a second to show that you are thinking. The other person will then know that you're reflecting on your answer before you respond. That's a good thing. Okay. Think about using mirroring. Subtly mirror body language of the person you're talking to. Okay. This will make them feel more at ease. It'll allow you to continue to build rapport. But remember, don't copy every gesture. This could make them feel uncomfortable or that you're not taking them seriously. There is a difference between mirroring and basically just copying all the way through. Always make sure there's a bit of a pause in between. If they touch their ear, don't immediately do it. Make sure if they touch their ear, it's something that you subtly do afterwards. If they lean to the side and put their hand on their cheek, fair enough, but do it slightly afterwards as well, so they can see that it's not mimicked, that you're just feeling comfortable in their space with them, okay? So what I want you to do, final section review. Now this is something to go away and do. So what I'd like you to do is when you go away from here today, please take some time to note this and put it into action and do it on a regular basis. So first of all, I want you to practice with your friends and family and watch. If you're around friends and family, are they in rapport? Look out for that body language. Are they matching? Are they mirroring? And if they are, what are they matching? Is it gestures? Is it the way they're sitting? Is it the speed of which they're talking? Just have a look and make some notes if you can. While you're making these observations, what it'll allow you to do is start thinking about the importance of non-verbal communication and how it constitutes 2/3 of how we communicate. Okay, so please have a look for those things with friends and family. Just watch them, observe them, see what happens, see if they are in rapport, or even sometimes if they're not in rapport, if they're turning away from each other. So what's happened? Always interesting to observe so you can put these things into practice when you're back out into work, okay? The next thing to do after watching for a while is talk to a friend or family member, someone you feel good about or someone you're confident with. Talk about something they love or they're excited about, whether it's a sport, an interest, a hobby of some sort. Talk about it, and about a lag of maybe 20 seconds or so, see if you can start matching them in some way. Concentrate on the obvious things like how they sit, their hand gestures, the speed of how they talk. And if you can, after you've done that, after you've had that little bit of practice with them, get some feedback. Did they feel comfortable? Did they feel that they were in rapport with you? And see if there's anything else that you can learn to do, improve, just so that when you go out and you put it into practice in work, you've got some confidence in terms of all the things that you're doing. So I mentioned right at the very start, a lot of time people think this is not something, this happens naturally, you can't improve on it. But by observing, learning, putting it into practice, you become better, you're more able to build rapport with people and help them get the results that they're after, okay? So please do put that into practice. As always, if there's any extra questions that you have, please do come back and let me know. You can email me, keith@yoursuccesssolutions.com. You can call me, 07917 858 060. As always, be happy to hear from you. So please do give it a go. I shall look forward to hearing from you soon, and we'll see you on the next session real soon. Take care, all the best. Thank you.